Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this Domination Mode Showdown. It's going to be Grand Cathay facing off against Tzeentch, Miao Ying versus Kairos Fateweaver. So certainly going to be some big, heavy hitters here in this battle. Granted, Kairos Fateweaver doesn't hit terribly hard himself. However, if he sneaks up on you with that old pimp cane, he can certainly do some decent damage, but really he is more of a caster. Now, as far as the build goes, it is going to be double longbows up in the sky, and I actually do like them in this matchup. They're a little bit tough to make work because typically the Tzeentch Air Force will outdo Cathay almost every time. Doom Knights do outtrade Longbow Riders, they have Furies, they also have Screamers of Tzeentch, which pack some huge armor piercing. Now, Longbows do trade pretty well with Screamers. I believe my opponent has some Screamers in his army here. Let's go ahead and double check here. So yes, he does. So Screamers are armor piercing and anti-large, and of course they do very well when mixed in with other units. Screamers themselves have 20 armor and low melee defense, so if you stack these with like Furies or Doom Knights or other durable Air Force units, they can really sneak in there and get some good damage. So in my experience, it has been very, very tough for Cathay to fight the Air Force against Tzeentch. But I found something that I actually liked quite a bit. So I go double Longma, and down on the ground here, you bring Miao Ying, who of course you turn into the big dragon. She can help turn the Air Force fight in your favor because Tzeentch's Air Force, especially Kairos, isn't like super good at fighting. She's a much better combatant, so she can go up there in dragon form and certainly help you win. But something that's been quite cool is using the double Alchemist. So they have some really cool perks for your army. Number one, they have 2 activated abilities which do not cost anyone's magic. So they are metal casters, but I recommend bringing them with this style build, just bare bones. They only cost 500 gold, and they're still, not terrible fighters. You can stack them with your infantry and they can do okay. But you have the Alchemist Elixir here, which gives 40 melee attack, and you do have the Enhanced Metallurgy, which is going to be giving you a base weapon damage of 30%, which is very cool. So you stack both of these buffs on Longbow Riders, suddenly they're going to be having like 70 melee attack, they'll be hitting for like 80 weapon strength, and they really trade super well. And also what's really cool about Alchemist here in this matchup, or in general, is the mastery of the elemental winds. So you guys have obviously seen this in campaign, right? It's really good because it makes your spells do 100%, 200% more damage, depending on how many you have. I believe with the 3 that I have, because Miao Ying has it and the 2 alchemists both have it as well, I believe it's like 100% damage bonus for your spells, which is crazy good. So what you then do is you use Miao Ying over here, and you use the Talons of the Night, I think is what the spell is called. Still learning all these, so please bear with me, my friends. But it does do a ton of damage, and yeah, you can see it does 130% more damage than it normally does, which is crazy. So in this battle, you're going to be seeing the huge magic coming out from Miao Ying. Last but not least, 2 crossbows on the ground. For my opponent's forces here, the foul changer of ways, it is going to be Kairos Fateweaver backed up by a bunch of blue horrors on the ground. It's going to be double Chaos Knights up in the hills, and Chaos Armor is quite good against Cathay because basically with Cathay, if you want to be dealing with armor, you have a couple options. You can go Crane Gunners, which are Jezzails, you can go the Iron Hail Gunners, which are basically shotguns, or you can go with like, Miao Ying or a Sentinel, for example. Now, the really hard part about doing the ranged options against Tzeentch is they have some of the best diving in the game. They have Furies, they have Chaos Knights, they have access to the Doom Knights, which are really, really good at just getting in there and charging with their heavy armor, and they have pretty good range themselves, so it's very tough to bring in a ton of range against these bad boys. In this case, I did open up with double Jade Warrior Crossbowmen, and it was really scary. As soon as I got into the game, I saw the double Chaos Knight, but what's really cool about Domination Mode is even if you load into a game and your opponent has a hard counter against your composition, it's not like game over. You actually have some tactical options. For example, back here, I summoned some Halberds, and they're going to be kind of moving over to secure this objective because a single unit of Jade Warrior Halberds for 700 gold probably is going to be able to hold off a unit of Chaos Knights, which is very cost effective. So at this point, it's mainly jockeying for position. My opponent here does summon in some Flamers of Tzeentch, which are a pretty good choice. The Flamers of Tzeentch are quite nasty. These bad boys hit super hard. 353 weapon strength, they give you fire weakness, and they also have 50 speed. And I actually think Flamers are one of the scariest units against Nurgle because Nurgle's so slow and very vulnerable to this kind of firepower. Nonetheless, the Flamer is going to be shooting up in the sky at Miao Ying. I was juking and dodging, so you can see I'm kind of going back and forth, but I still get sprayed a little bit. She takes a little bit of fire damage right there. Yeah, but something that's going to be even worse is Kairos does have a snare, and I'm so used to playing against the other Lords of Change who do not have a snare, but Kairos does indeed have it. So he's going to be coming in and snaring Miao Ying here, really, really exposing me for the overextension, and I will be paying a little bit of a troll toll here with Miao Ying as I will get roasted. Now, in the back, the next part of my game plan was to get a Sentinel. Pushing up on the center against Tzeentch with all these Flamers and mobile units is going to be very tough. So I'm going to be getting a big Sentinel in the middle just to kind of tank it and allow my Longbows and other units to do very well. Now here up in the sky, Miao Ying going to be getting hammered pretty good. Warp Flame and Gaze of Fate active. Thankfully, her kind of animation there does help her dodge some of those shots, but the Warp Flame of Tzeentch does bathe the Ancient Dragon. But she will be able to get away, keeping her hair nice and intact there. I like how she has like the grandma kind of top bun right there, which is pretty hilarious. Terracotta Sentinel moving in. The big boy, probably the best unit on the Cathay roster, in my opinion, at least in Domination Mode. And what I really wanted to happen was for the Chaos Knights to maybe come and take this bait, go after the Jade Warriors back here, and then allow my Longbows to get in and roast his back line. I wanted to trade back lines. And here, the Longbow Riders are going to be hunting down the Screamers. Screamers are relatively quick with 85 speed. I'm 105, so I should be able to get some damage, but overall it's not like super cost effective. And here the two Jade Warrior crossbowmen put a little bit of hurt here. What was going on there? Were those Screamers like accidentally shooting the Blue Horrors? Anyways, Flamers of Tzeentch overextend. Longbow Riders moving in, getting a huge charge, and the Flamers of Tzeentch are really, really glass cannons. Very similar to like Deck Gunners, but my Longbow Riders are going to be taking a little bit of Tzeentch fire for their trouble here as the Blue Horrors do unleash on them. And in the middle, the giant Colossus of Cathay moves in, and guys, that looks like a bunched up little blob right there. Those Blue Horrors of Tzeentch are going to be getting the magic, and you guys will see how powerful the amplified Cathay magic can be in just a moment as the Sentinel continues to go through. So Talons of the Knight's going to be coming down. We have about 6,800 HP right here, and here comes the Talons of the Knight, just huge damage as the Talons of the Dragon move up, and the Dragon herself is going to be jumping in, and that unit basically just gets deleted. That was just one cast. Hey, if I can delete a chaff unit every single time I cast a spell, sign me up for that. And even if that had been a more expensive unit, for example, it would have killed it, a Forsaken, whatever. That is huge value city, especially in a game mode where fighting on objectives is so important. So we finally get the trade. Back here, the two Chaos Knights do move on top of my archers. Not a whole lot I could do about that, so I'm kind of like, whatever. Let's just get my Longbow Riders and kill his backfield as well. So over here, Longbow Riders are engaged against some Doom Knights that he did summon, and the fight is not going super well considering I don't have any support for these guys, so a little bit of an unfortunate trade there. But the other Longbow Riders get a super cost-effective trade. Flamers of Tzeentch are not cheap units. They're pretty close to 1,000 gold. I think they're like 800 or 900, so getting that pick there with the Longbow Riders felt really, really, really good. Now in the backfield, I did summon in some of the Crane Gunners to try and snipe the Chaos Knights off the battlefield, but like I said, it's very tough to protect against his armor here, and I did summon some Halberds, so at the very least, if the Chaos Knights do get embroiled in combat versus Halberds, maybe the Crane Gunners are going to be able to sit and shoot. We'll have to see. Now, as far as objectives go, I do have my Halberds on the far side. Objective in the middle, it's owned by Tzeentch, and objective number 3 over here is quite neutral, as the tooltip does infer. Nobody's really going for that, so a slight lead for Tzeentch because they did capture the objectives a little bit earlier, but we have gotten some really good backline pressure. Unfortunately for me, the Doom Knights were able to crump my forces. But the really big thing here is not going to be triple capping Tzeentch. Cathay, it's very tough to do that. Really, I just want to hold the two objectives. Cathay, in many ways, is kind of similar to playing Dwarves. I would say they have many, kind of similarities. I do wish that the Iron Hail Gunners that Cathay did have had 140 range and also, had a little bit of a better arc of fire. But here comes another spell from Miao Ying. Although these ones aren't quite as bunched up, but it should do some big damage. Look at the Storm of the Night tearing through that barrier. That's like 1,000 HP gone in a second. And it also has an ability where it kind of like tugs them in. So in this case, that was a great cast. I mean, they were super split up. Just imagine if those little guys had been blobbed up. I really like that spell, and I do think the Double Alchemist is quite good. Now back here, I had no intention of triple capping my opponent or trying to get this objective, really. I knew that he would rotate back here and go after this, but really the big thing is just to try and drag him away from the center objective, which we're now starting to win. The little Blue Horrors here do lose their capture weight as they take more and more damage. So as the big Sentinel and the two Alchemists, which are now hanging out with the Sentinel, are able to clear them off here, we will get the advantage here in the middle and should be able to capture it. We do also have crossbows coming back, and I have summoned in a second Sentinel. Now that many of the Flamers have been taken off the battlefield, some of the heavier shooting of Tzeentch, I feel a little bit safer to allocate some big resources into the Sentinel and just go for the win by holding two objectives. We almost get the back objective as well. My poor peasant horsemen are being chased by, Chaos Knights of Tzeentch, but just like in Warhammer 2, if you're harassing somebody with chaff units, whether it be Dark Riders, something like that, having them allocate a really expensive unit to chase down your peasant horsemen is pretty good. I could have put up a little bit of a fight here, maybe countercharge, but it's still 1,500 gold going after like 400 gold, which I think is quite good. So now Miao Ying and company basically just trying to clear out the chaff while the Tzeentch forces are a little bit occupied on the back objective. So Kairos is coming back, and now there are no objectives for Tzeentch. And, capping at this point, getting the 2 cap is good because the score is close, which means my opponent is not going to be getting the big advantage for holding multiple or being super behind, which can be a little bit scary. I've done a lot of game testing with Anticity, and there are games where you actually just want to fight your opponent and try and win on value, depending on the matchup, and not bother with capturing the objectives. Like outvaluing your opponent, crushing their army, and then triple capping them once it's safe. Otherwise, sometimes if you, capture 3 objectives and your opponent focuses more on trying to get value against your army, they will outvalue you, they'll beat you down, and since you give them the advantage for being behind in score, they'll then stomp you even worse. So there's a lot of kind of meta and strategy that's kind of unfolding here with Domination mode, which is very cool. In the beginning, I thought it would be mostly just like, okay, whoever just holds the objectives wins, but really, you don't even have to go for the objectives early. You can focus on trading, and that can really be a viable style of play. Now, I don't know if that was an intentional dodge there, but we do get the Storm of the Night once again, and that's pretty big damage there on those pink cores. If it had been like dead center right on them, I think it would have brought them to the point of almost crumbling. Miao Ying being hunted down by the Doom Knights, but my plan is to kind of land on the ground here in a second and go into human form and try and get that nice kind of Earthblood combo in these bad boys. Now in the backfield, I have one Halberd unit. Looks like Tzeentch may be thinking about a little bit of witchcraft over here. The blue hordes of Tzeentch are maneuvering around, and it looks like they're going to be trying to poke my Jade Warriors. And yeah, you have the Screamers coming in, you have the Doom Knights, and also Big Chicken himself. Ooh, a huge Pendulum coming in brings down my Jade Warriors quite a bit, but we were able to dodge that, which was quite nice. And now the two Sentinels going to be hustling. It's funny, they look so slow when they run, but I love their animations, but they're actually relatively quick. The Sentinels do have, I believe, 50 speed. Let's go ahead and check. Yeah, 48. They can certainly get there. Now the Halberds holding the backfield objective. Sentinels are going to be moving back and across, and it looks like we might have a little Air Force duel here. The Doom Knights are quite healthy still. Their Protoss shields able to regenerate and keep them nice and juicy. And there goes a big Pendulum. Oh my god, Pendulum is so good in this game now. It's hands down one of the best spells. And suddenly my 700 gold unit, its fighting shape is very, very poor. And it's not like Kislev, who of course has the army passive for becoming unbreakable. These guys are going to buckle and fold like a piece of paper. The Doom Knights, of course, moving in, they were facing the wrong way, so that is my mistake there. But the Doom Knights do get the charge here, and yeah, we'll see what the Halberds can do against these guys. Probably not too much considering the big chickens here, and they do break, and that is going to be pretty rough there on that objective. But Miao Ying is nearby. We do also have Jade Lancers and the Terracotta Sentinel, which is pretty much a hard counter against all this stuff. You know, Tzeentch's magic isn't going to be good against Terracotta. The best answer that Tzeentch has for Terracotta is hands down going to be the Flamers of Tzeentch or some of those other units, none of which is back here. So we do summon in Jade Lancers, which I think are a pretty terrible unit, but at least it gives you some mobility. And we do come back here and push them off the objective, while in the middle, we're still holding. We have some armored Jade Warrior Infantry, double Alchemist, but the Chaos Knights get a huge charge down the pipe on these guys. And man, oh man, those Tzeentch Knights, I really love that color scheme. You know what, this color scheme would actually be very easy to paint tabletop as well. Basically, you just prime your, Chaos Knight in like silver, and then just do some sort of a contrast blue on top of it, like really, really thinned out. And you would honestly be able to get this scheme super easily. So maybe if I ever paint a Tzeentch army, I will take some notes here. But they do get a nice charge. The Jade Warriors get the Enhanced Metallurgy, which is going to be giving them some magic damage. Not really pertinent here, but against the demons it could be because they have physical resist. And the Terracotta Sentinels coming in with the Steel Chair, baby! Oh my god, I love his attack animations. It's so cool. And a couple of the Chaos Knights do get crumped as the Screamers of Tzeentch move in, and the little pink cores may be trying to get in position to take the objective as he Sentinel. Oh my god, he just did the Exorcist! Did you guys see that? He did a full 360 head spin. Oh my god, I have actually not noticed that yet. But here he comes, the big overhand chop. I feel like we need a priest to exorcise this guy from the game right now. The Warrior Priest of Sigmar will handle that. So now Tzeentch is starting to summon in some range, which is a really good play. He kind of forced me to go back here. Like, I had to allocate an entire Sentinel and probably 1,400 gold worth of units. Miao Ying is stuck fighting Doom Knights in the corner of the map. So now is the time for Tzeentch to get back in this game. To take the middle objective. They're going to have to take it pretty quick, though, because I do have a substantial lead of, well over 1,000 points there. So he's going to need to take this objective relatively soon. But here comes the big Sentinel, still tanking like an absolute champion. And I know if Tzeentch is able to get their Flamers, like just shooting at the Sentinel, it'll die really quickly. Their Flamers actually have massive armor piercing. Oh, that animation's really cool too. Yeah, super neat. And the two Alchemists aren't doing bad fighting on the ground, and their buffs, the one-time melee attack buff does not come back, but the Metallurgy buffs have a pretty short cooldown, and honestly, you can just like spam those non-stop, so it's pretty good. I wish they did give the yin and yang for the range, but it does serve as an amplifier if you are able to get yin and yang. But really with this army comp, like, that's one thing. Like, I find that a lot of Cathay builds don't really have a ton of yin and yang. Oh, but a big cast right there on top of the pink cores of Tzeentch. The amplified magic doing huge work. And the pink core is getting melted down to like 30%. That's why I think going with Miao Ying, Talons of the Night with the double Alchemist is going to be really good in a ton of matchups when you're dealing with these kind of ranged threats. The spell itself seems to have pretty good armor piercing damage, and boom, we just killed a 700 gold unit for one spell, which I think costs like 10 or 12 wins of magic. We didn't quite get the Flamers here, but overall I would call that a pretty big win. Huge Pendulum coming in once again. It does partially hit us, but still does a freakish amount of damage. Here in the backfield, blue hordes of Tzeentch are tar-pitting my Jade Warriors, and in the back, the Terracotta Sentinel, he's just going to be sitting back there. Because, like, it will take Tzeentch a lot of effort to kind of get rid of that guy on the objective, but Miao Ying getting roasted here by the Flamers of Tzeentch, and the big chicken coming in with the steel chair. Going to be going after the Dragon Lady, and she's going to be trying to survive. Certainly not looking too great, as the blue fire of Tzeentch does bathe the Ancient Dragon, and it's not the kind of fire she enjoys, that's for sure. So broken, running for the hills, terrified as well. I feel like she should be immune to psychology. She's literally like an ancient dragon demigod who is like older than the Chaos Gods. But, I'm not here asking questions, Like a black orc isn't going to run from that. But, an ancient dragon god creature is going to get terrified by this chicken. Which I'm sure she's like face scarier shit than that, right? Anyways, subject for another day. Now in the middle, Tzeentch is going to be taking back the objective here. It's going back and forth. You can see the balance of power is tugging and pulling. I have the 2 alchemists, and peasant horsemen are, not great in combat, but they're really good for like rushing and tar pitting objectives. And the big man in the distance, you can see him hustling across, huffing and puffing, trying to get here to battle the big chicken as the Terracotta Sentinel. Oh, I thought he was going to do like a wind-up punch there. It looks like he was going for some sort of a Mike Tyson. I wonder if they have any synced attacks right here. That'd be kind of cool to watch. In the cinematic, of course, the Terracotta Sentinel does get owned, but the Enhanced Metallurgy is active. Really, really good buff on those guys. Puts their weapon strength up to 645, which is quite cool. Some of the archers getting roasted here, and Miao Ying is actually back in business, so she might be able to get some sort of a heal, but Forsaken of Tzeentch also piling in. So aside from the Terracotta Sentinels, this middle position is getting a little bit precarious. I can't remember if at this point I do go for the back objective. I do have some Crane Gunners who have come back to play, so they will get some Jezzail fire downtown, which could be quite good. But we do have the weight on the objective. We have 2 Alchemists, we have the Terracotta Sentinel, we have Jade Lancers, and also a second Terracotta Sentinel has now gotten here to help finish off these Screamers right here, which would be very, very strong. Here comes the big animation, the overtop slam. And that is going to be a victory for Cathay. So at that point, my opponent knew I was very high up on score. In terms of the damage value in trading, I was also probably, I think, just winning. So that is a feature I think Creative Assembly is going to be adding later. The ability to actually see the damage value done in replays. For some reason, you can't see it in replays, but in live casted games or in like spectator mode, you can. A little bit strange, but the damage done was pretty even that game. And we did have the objective lead as well, but... yeah, I really love the double Alchemist build as well as Miao Ying, and the long ones are pretty cool as well. The issue is if Tzeentch decides to go for the double Doom Knight opening, this can be a little bit scary, but even still, you can win it because what you do is you have a third Longma in your reserves, and with Miao Ying like fighting up in the sky with the 2 Alchemists buffing you, you can actually get some really, really good trades. It's hard, it's very tough, but... I think it's pretty decent. Now, as far as what I would do differently with this build, I would take the chevrons off the Longmas. I would probably get rid of the archers. I feel like they're too vulnerable in the opening. Archer units, in my experience with Cathay, are better to summon in later once you've dealt with the enemy mobility. Then you summon the archers and push up on your opponent. I think starting with them is a little bit too rough. I'd probably go with like maybe like double Halberd or like double Jade Warrior or something like that. Or maybe even just come in with like a third Longma Rider in the opening. But yeah, very well played to my opponent. That was quite a bit of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed Grand Cathay versus Tzeentch. The pumped up elemental mastery of the winds, always pretty cool. And I think it's going to be a big player for sure as people kind of experiment with the playstyle of Grand Cathay. So that's it. Take care of yourselves. We are going to be here, I believe, tomorrow or the next couple days with the good old Kislev embargo. Super excited for that. So stay tuned, my friends. We'll be having more and more matches, all sorts of good stuff, and website coming soon as well. Take care, and we'll see you guys next time.